When it comes to the world's largest crocodilian, it's usually the Nile and the saltwater crocodile that are the most talked about. But there's another crocodilian which with some recent findings might get just as, if not even longer than both of these species, and it's one you probably didn't even know existed. Meet the Tomistoma, also known as the false gharial. While it might just look like an unusual freshwater crocodile, these guys could get a lot bigger.
My goodness!
Yes, I didn't even know they could get this large until very recently. And unlike most crocodilians, which have plenty of over-exaggerated measurements from the past, these Tomistomas seem to get bigger and bigger every year, with new individuals and hidden populations constantly being discovered. So let's dive into the many mysteries that surround one of the world's largest and also most understudied crocodilians. Despite its nickname, the false gharial, Tomistomas are in the Gharialidae family, which just so happens to only be shared with one modern-day crocodilian, the Indian gharial. But unlike the Indian gharial, which it shares a similar body plant to, the Tomistoma is not a fish specialist, but instead a generalistic predator that actually needs mammalian prey in order to sustain itself. This was actually figured out by having people take care of them in captivity, only for their Tomistomas to die early on because of the lack of mammalian prey. In the wild, on top of eating large fish, these crocodilians will eat pretty much anything that gets into the river, ranging from Asian water monitors to monkeys and even humans and cattle. This generalistic diet was very shocking to a lot of scientists, as Tomistomas have much more slender jaws than the average crocodilian, which is usually a trait of more piscivorous species. Yet again, with males averaging at 13 feet on the regular, I guess it really doesn't matter what they're eating, as long as it could fit in their mouths. By the way, these guys just so happen to have the largest skulls of any crocodilian, with the record Tomistoma skull being over 33 inches long, which is even bigger than the largest saltwater crocodile skull ever documented. But let's face it, size does matter, and everybody wants to know just how big do these Tomistomas get, and I'm here to tell you they get pretty huge. The most famous of these large Tomistomas is the kraken, which currently resides in a zoo in Denmark and actually has the title of being the largest crocodilian currently in Europe, with his maximum size being at 16 feet 9 inches and about 1,300 pounds. Sure, this is already bigger than the largest American alligator on record, and already about the same size as some of the largest American crocodiles, but what if I told you they could get even bigger than this? Multiple zoos in Southeast Asia claim to have Tomistomas over 18 feet long, though these claims are incredibly hard to verify. This is because unlike saltwater crocodiles, which get official verified measurements all the time in captivity, the Tomistoma is often overlooked, as a lot of people just assume since they don't know as much about it, it's a smaller species, which really couldn't be any further from the truth. Even though both scientists and the general public usually aren't as interested in a lot of these lesser known crocodilians, the Tomistoma, along with the black caiman and the Orinoco crocodile, have all proven to be just as fascinating and also large as the much more popular American crocodile, Nile crocodile, and possibly everybody's favorite, the saltwater crocodile. Interestingly, both the Tomistoma and the saltwater crocodile do share a lot of habitat in the islands in which they inhabit, particularly the brackish water swamps of coastal Borneo and Java. Even though Tomistomas normally prefer to stay further inland, while saltwater crocodiles prefer to stay closer to the coast, there still is a fair bit of overlap between these two species' habitats. And some people have suggested that part of the reason why the Tomistomas get so big in these areas is so they could compete directly with the saltwater crocodile for food. Interestingly, unlike the saltwater crocodile, which is very bulky, the Tomistoma is very slender in its build, which allows for them to be much more nimble and agile in the water. Because of this, no individual has been verified to weigh over 1,500 pounds, while for comparison the saltwater crocodile, despite only getting a few feet larger that we know of, could weigh well over a ton. And I'm continuously insisting that we know of because of photos and videos like these. Most of these images and videos have been filmed in some of the most remote parts of Malaysia, where modern scientists and experts almost never go. but already in some of these remote villages there's been claims of Tomistomas getting well over 20 feet, with some crazy claims even going as far as to say they could get up to 26 feet long. Even though I don't believe any modern day crocodilian could get into the mid-20s in terms of length, I do believe that some of these Tomistomas out there could definitely be a lot larger than what Western scientists are aware of. In order to give this claim some validity, most sources claim that the maximum length for a Tomistoma is about 18 feet. But when you look back at the largest skull of a Tomistoma ever recorded, their potential maximum length could definitely be larger than this margin. Even though this statistic is definitely questionable, the average head to body length ratio for an adult Tomistoma is about 1:7. And if you do the math using this 33-inch long skull, its respective owner would be about 19 feet 3 inches long, which I think's pretty huge. But it should also be kept in mind that the head to body length ratio of a lot of larger crocodilians can tend to vary massively. Though with this measurement not even accounting for the possibility of skull shrinkage, I think it's a very safe bet to say that this Tomistoma was absolutely massive. Plus, with how understudied this crocodilian truly is, it's almost guaranteed that there are plenty of larger individuals out there, especially around some of these more remote villages where people are unfortunately taken by these creatures. Just as unfortunately, the Tomistoma only exists in a small fraction of its original range. Having once lived throughout the entirety of Southeast Asia's swamplands, these animals are now entirely restricted to some of the most remote swamps of northern Indonesia and Malaysia. This is because of the increasing amount of development that has been occurring throughout all of these different nations. Now the vast majority of the Tomistoma's range consists of smaller villages and palm oil plantations, on top of other kinds of farmland. Tragically, these Tomistomas also suffer from poaching on the regular, on top of also being entangled in fishing gear somewhat often. Even sea level rise has played a part in decreasing their range to some degree. Due to all of these factors, the Tomistoma, in addition to many of Indonesia and Malaysia's other megafaunal wildlife, are all in danger of going extinct by the end of the century. Even though Tomistomas are opportunistic predators which will prey upon humans when given the chance, this species is far from the most dangerous crocodilian on the planet, and with the right measures, humanity and these Tomistomas should be able to coexist side by side relatively peacefully. But the question still remains, can these Tomistomas actually get up to the 20-foot mark? While it still remains to be confirmed, I and many true experts fully agree that these Tomistomas might just be one of, if not the longest modern-day crocodilian. And even beyond a size, there's still plenty of other unique things about this crocodilian just waiting to be discovered. With that being said, I really hope you learned something new in this video and enjoyed, which if you did, then please give me all of your
here we go. Money talk.
By liking and subscribing. Every little bit helps as YouTube is my main source of income, and I'd love to be able to continue making animal mini documentaries for you guys. And hopefully I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye.